Hello, world. We are back with another episode of Grammys and Heismans. Today, diving into the world of college sports politics. It's been a crazy week. This week has been kind of like the House of Cards on Capitol Hill. The NCAA and the power conferences have spent millions lobbying for the SCORE Act, which is a bill that could reshape college sports forever. So today, with my co-host, you guys know JG, the CEO of the network, and also my brother. And we have a special guest. We have Jim Cavale with us today, who is the founder of athletes.org, which is an organization that's built to give college athletes a collective voice and the tools that they need to succeed in the new era. So first of all, welcome to the show, Jim. It's good to see you. I know you're repping New York. You're repping your high school on the T-shirt today, but glad you make the time to talk with me and JG, man. Welcome to the show.
Oh man, thanks for having me, and always love talking about this stuff. And JG, you and I talk about it all the time offline, so it's good to be talking about it online.
No, we do. We do. So let's just start there. The SCORE Act. People are hearing about it. For the people who don't know about it, what exactly is the bill and what are the major elements that the NCAA is trying to put in place with the SCORE Act?
Well, listen, I mean, the SCORE Act is a bill to try to really codify the House settlement, and allow for everything that is being done by the NCAA and has been done for the last 100 years to continue on. The reality is the NCAA and the institutions conferences have violated the Sherman Antitrust Act over and over again. And in 2021, when they lost the Alston case, Judge Kavanaugh basically said, listen, this business operates unlike anything in American labor. And he called it a cartel. And he said, you can't justify not paying your workers fair market value just because you've always not paid them fair market value. Like, that's not enough. And so here we are in this NIL era where rosters continue to cost more, and schools, conferences, and the CFP and NCAA continue to make more and commercialize this more. And there's a attempt here with this bill to provide an antitrust exemption to the NCAA and the institutions and conferences that make it up, so they can start setting rules again, governing those rules. And there's no real opportunity for litigation if those rules are, somehow mistreating the young athletes who they depend on to be able to generate revenue. But also, as they continue to grow the revenue pie, there's no real opportunity for more benefits and more compensation for college athletes if this bill goes through. So there's a real hole in this bill because it just misses the big picture and the same problems that have hurt athletes for decades: hypocritical enforcement structures, limiting earning potential, lack of accountability for those profiting off of athletes, no real say from athletes, on future governance. It's all being preserved by this bill. And it's a system that's already deemed illegal that would be preserved by it. So it's flawed in a lot of ways.
So, Jim, tell us who's really behind the bill, and how much of it comes straight from the NCAA and the power conferences.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they've spent, hundreds of millions of dollars lobbying for Congress, and in this case, the House of Representatives is where this bill has started, to help them. It is their Hail Mary. They have been hoping that Congress would help them for quite some time now. And so this bill has sponsors from both sides of the aisle. You have, a Democrat and Republican sponsor, which is why it started to get some momentum. Some people thought as recent as a week ago that the Black Caucus was going to come out and support this bill. And a lot of people thought if that happened, then this bill would definitely get to the floor and get voted through the House, because it would get the Democrats that need to vote on it to vote on it. That didn't happen. The Black Caucus didn't come out and oppose it, but they're further evaluating it. And the National Urban League has come out and opposed it and urged the Black Caucus to oppose it. But the reality is, even if it gets through the House, they have to get 7 Democrats to vote for it in the Senate for it to fully get through. And listen, Cory Booker and Mike Blumenthal, they have owned this college sports issue on the Democratic side of the aisle for a while now, and they are not going to support this bill. So this bill is really a distraction. It's a distraction for the leaders of college athletics to stop trying to throw a Hail Mary and actually engineer a really good 2-minute drive. And that really good 2-minute drive is like any other multi-billion-dollar business in sports. You have to collectively bargain the rules with the talent, who is your labor. Let's be honest. You tell them where to be, what to do for well over 40 hours a week. And they could do that. There are clear paths to do that. And we could have rules with a salary cap that's enforceable, with an anti-circumvention system that doesn't allow schools to manipulate ways to go around the cap that could be governed. We could have transfer rules. We could have academic requirements. We could have eligibility limits. We could have all those things that people want. Fans say they want it. We have 5,000 athletes that are members of our Players Association at athletes.org. They want a lot of those things. But the only way you can really get it is you got to give the athletes a seat at the table to negotiate and agree to what those rules are. That's the 2-minute drive. And they're just throwing up heave hose like we do on Madden sometime when we keep running that hot route. They're doing that through this Congress play. That's just not going to happen.
That segues perfectly to Justin, right? So for Justin, like with you being in the trenches every day, you are the king of NIL. I know Jim's saying it's not going to happen,
It's nice.
right?
Chuck proclaims me that. I don't know if that's true, but
Justin was on this stuff when I was still in like preschool. So in my mind, he's the king of the NIL. I mean, like everything he said literally eventually happened and came true. So to me, he's the king of the NIL. I said it. Feel free to try me on it if you guys see me in the streets. You won't do that. But for Justin, in the event that the SCORE Act does pass, how will that affect like NIL opportunities, for players in the way that they work with agents and teams like ourselves at the network?
yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of stipulations in it. I want to chime in on something first. Something that I've been saying for a long time, and I hate to say it, I'm happy that this SCORE Act feels like it's not going to get through, because at the end of the day, as Jim said, they don't really want to deal with the issue. The issue is, it feels like it's painful to start all the way at the beginning and really sit down and discuss what needs to happen and have the talent and representation at the table. It feels like we're in like a Micah Parsons, Jerry Jones feud here, but all jokes aside, but that's what it's going to take. And I'm proud that people are not just letting this go, if that makes sense, because it's interesting to watch how many people with agendas are just trying to push it through. Like this is some small issue. I mean, at the end of the day, if they push it through, then there would be more lawsuits. At the end of the day, and there's a lot of people that Jim knows, ADs, presidents, that actually have understood that you need to have the talent at the table. And so it takes people like Jim and his group, who were super supporters of everything athletes.org does. And the way they've gone about it, they've really taken up this charge, but it's going to take actually having the talent at the table to have, to really get to the root of this thing. And it's getting closer. I mean, behind the scenes, there's more and more people that are kind of decided like, all right, if it was going to happen, that there was going to be some quick fix, it would have happened. And inherently what it means is people want to win football games and want to win basketball games. Anytime there's a gray area, it's going to be exploited by someone, because inherently people want to have an advantage. So until everyone agrees that there's an even playing field, which is going to take everyone at the table, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and just to kind of break it down for just fans and people who care about college sports, the revenue of college athletics, or really college football, drives 90% of the revenue for college athletics. And I mean big time football. So first of all, first fact you need to know is last year, college athletics did $18 billion in overall revenue. The NBA did 10. So just so you understand, like college sports is second biggest sports business in America, league wise, behind the NFL, who does a little over 20 billion. MLB, NHL, and NBA are 10 billion or below. Okay. And keep in mind, half of that money in the NBA goes to the players each year through the collective bargaining agreement. But 90% of that $18 billion comes from 24 schools that play one sport, football. That's who drives all of the revenue for college athletics. minus the billion that comes from March Madness from men's basketball and women's basketball. So it wasn't always like that. In 1980, if there's an older fan that's complaining about the way it used to be, in 1980, it still wasn't right that there was a concept of amateurism and student-athlete for a lot of reasons, because the athletes were still the ones drawing fans. But the revenue wasn't so disproportionate that a scholarship and benefits weren't enough. They probably were enough back in 1980. But the commercialization that has happened in the 90s and the 2000s, the BCS, the ACC deal was really the first big conference deal. Then the SEC did their network. Then the Big Ten did their network. Then we started the CFP and left the BCS. That growth in revenue and still saying a scholarship is enough, that's why we're here. And so if we say what they're getting now is enough, the house settlement's enough, well, if it keeps growing, once again, we're going to be capping athletes forever. And that's a big concern if I'm JG, because JG's out representing some of the most talented athletes who are going to be capped in what they can earn. And some might not be able to play beyond college. And so that's a real issue that we have in this. Another really big issue in the SCORE Act and in the House settlement is that the leaders in college athletics are all lying about what this compensation is. They're calling it NIL compensation, but it's actually pay-for-play compensation. When they get this $20 million cap and they start spending it on revenue sharing with a quarterback or a running back or a point guard, we all know that's to play quarterback, running back, or point guard. That money is not to do an actual NIL marketing endorsement deal. And so this idea that this is NIL, when we all know it's actually pay for play, is a huge issue. It's an issue in how the contracts are papered up. It's an issue in how some agents are taking advantage of athletes and charging outrageous percentages that are standard for marketing deals versus a performance deal. And it's a real issue, right? So the great agents out there like Network and JG, they want there to be standards for agents because they'll hit them and it will stop the other agents from coming in taking advantage of athletes. They'll pass a test because they've passed the test for the NFLPA. So why would they not pass the test for the College Players Association, right? They'll charge the fees within the fee regulations. We don't have any of that in college sports. So there's a lot of things that are being done that are just disingenuous with what everyone says this is all about. Everybody says this is about academics and the ability to maximize the potential of young people. How is UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten and Cal and Stanford on the Pacific Coast being in the Atlantic Coast Conference? How is that helping with academics? How is that? How does that make sense and line up with those values if you read the NCAA's mission page? They don't. And so we've got to start calling it what it is and structuring it as such.
Incredible answer. I mean, that led into my next question for you and JG. I mean, who else out there besides what we're doing in Network and what you're doing and have done at athletes.org is really working to protect the players? Like, are there any other organizations that you feel like are doing a good job or even working with you in conjunction to make sure that we always protect the players?
For me, we're the only operating players association in the history of college sports. Let me define that. We have a team of 12 people who've worked for players associations at the pro level, for college sport athletics organizations, for pro teams, for agencies. And that team has signed up 5,000 current college athletes as members, and we serve them with a free membership right now because we don't collectively bargain for them. And that includes free legal, free accounting, free mental health, free agent background review. A lot of the things we offer all of our athletes are things that Justin and his team are only able to deliver for a handful of premium top performing athletes. And there's a lot of other athletes that are teammates of Network's clients that need to have a contract reviewed, need help with their taxes. And so that's what we're doing. There's not a lot, it's hard to do because all we're doing is spending millions of dollars on an operation with no revenue. So it's kind of hard for there to be people out there looking out for athletes. And if you want to look at the danger of college athletes not having group representation, because like I said earlier, a lot of college athletes that are top performers like Diego Pavia or DJ Lagwit, they have Network, but there's thousands of athletes and they need group representation. If you want to look at a great example, look at the college football video game. The college football video game, if you look at the same creator of the game, EA, and the deal they have with the NFL video game, which is called Madden, that game comes with a 15% royalty for the players. And that means if the college football game does $1 billion like it did in year one, that there's over $100 million going to the players. Instead, how many went to the players in year one? 8 million. Okay. And so $600 and a copy of the game. And every athlete signed up because the schools and video game makers and everybody else believes they'll take whatever they can get. And they did. And so they should have group representation for a deal like that. And they would get a lot more. They'd probably get, by my estimation, 9,000 to 10,000 each to be in that game. Plus the big name athletes would get ambassador deals on top of that. That's not happening. That's just one example. There's so many examples like that outside. Well, that example is outside of the revenue of college athletics, but then there's examples inside of college athletics that look exactly the same. And so we've got to start asking ourselves, if I'm a school and I lead an athletic program and I say my mission is to maximize the potential of our young athletes, to protect them, to empower them, why would I not want them to have group representation? That's in line with my mission, right? And the answer is because there's certain people that are leading the most powerful conferences that don't want to lose any of their power. And because of that, we are still in the same place, which is please, Congress, help us. And the longer they wait for that, the higher a roster is going to cost. And the more painful this is going to be for them, which it should be, because they should have done this a while ago.
I agree. No, I completely agree. I mean, I think, and for you, JG, getting your thoughts. I mean, more so, if we're explaining this to just, your average guy sitting at the bar, are there any positives in the SCORE Act at all? Like, is it all seen as negative? I mean, like, which way do we kind of lean? Is it a 50-50 split here?
I mean, I think the problem with it is just the underlying intent's not right. So it's hard to think of any of the positives because at the end of the day, it's fundamentally flawed and it locks players into something that, like Jim said, I mean, that's a big thing, the fact that it's trying to cap it, right? So they're trying to get everyone to agree to something, but what if earning keeps going up? I mean, that would never happen in any other league. And so it's really interesting to watch these groups try to pass these things, like Jim said, trying to just hope that they could slip one by the goalie with politics. And it's interesting to watch it every time it's stopping, because it's hard for people to look at it on its face value and decide that it's actually the right thing to do. And so, I guess in once politics is actually working here, which is, a little bit of a change. And for once people are actually stopping and taking a thought of like, does this actually make sense? And is it really going to fix the problem?
Yeah. And I think, what's interesting is there is this reality that the people moving the most right now in DC when it comes to writing bills, not all, but most are coming from the right side, the Republican side. And they're all trying to preserve a system that's been deemed illegal by the courts. Of course, this is the legislative branch, and they're trying to legislate new law that maybe doesn't give the courts as much ability to deem this illegal. But to this point, it's been deemed illegal. What I think is really interesting is college sports, the way I explained it earlier, $18 billion in revenue, 90% comes from football, women's basketball make up most of the rest. Small amount of schools produce that revenue in those sports. It's actually a socialistic model. It's really interesting. Republicans, who we know are anti-socialistic, right? Like this model is saying, hey, football players that play at these schools should sign up to produce revenue for the schools to be able to pay the other sports. Now, I love the other sports. I played one of the other sports in college, baseball, and I played at a Division II school. And so I love that the other sports exist and exist at a certain level, and I think they should. I think at the big time level, the Olympic sports should still exist the way they do today with great facilities and scholarships. But that's not the football players' problem. That's the athletic department and the university's problem to figure out. And when you have the head coach making $13 million a year, and you have ADs and staff members making tens of millions total with payroll, maybe you got to start asking yourself, is this upside down? Do we need to maybe redistribute and reallocate how we're spending money so we can afford these other sports? Instead, they're saying, no. Football, they were saying before NAL, no, football is getting enough. Well, they were getting the same exact thing as every other sport, right? And so it's just out of whack. And it's ironic to me that the Republican side are passing bills that are actually trying to preserve what is a socialistic model when they say they're all about capitalism. And if we're all about capitalism and fair market value, like what are some of these talented football players really worth? I mean, let me go one step further. Right now, people are outraged that a quarterback in college football makes $2 million a year. Oh my God, $2 million a year. He's unproven. He's only 18 to 22. I got an argument against the 18 to 22-year-old thing in a second. I'll leave that aside. But let's just dive in on this $2 million, $3 million a year number that some people are outraged that a quarterback would make. In pro sports, okay, Andy Reid has a comparable salary to an SEC, big-time SEC brand coach, okay? Teens, millions, okay? Let's call it $15 million a year. Some of these coaches are making a little under that or whatever. What does his quarterback make? $45 million a year, 3 times as much as he makes. That's how valuable a good quarterback is in the NFL. So I would argue that the market hasn't even set yet, and that really talented, proven quarterbacks will use Mateer, who is proven and went to Oklahoma. I would argue he's a $10 million, maybe a $20 million a year guy. And that's how out of whack this is when you look at coaching salaries and player salaries. And coaches could start to, if they were on here, argue with me. But if I asked them, what do you need to win? What would they say?
A quarterback.
A quarterback.
a proven, actually, they'd say a proven quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's an unbelievable point about the percentages, right? The head coaches are approximately the same, but the asset, the most important asset on the field, is not even comparable. It's all relative, right? Because they're coming from a place of nothing. So, and that's why you say you got to get to the bottom of what this. We got to actually get this right. And everyone knew when they did the house settlement, everyone knew that this was going to happen. They knew when they made that deal that 2/3 of it was okay, 1/3 was open-ended. It was going to lead us to this. Like, they knew, but they just needed the optic win, right? Oh, we need to put. We've been talking about this settlement for 6 years. We got to push it through, right? We're going to push it through, even though it didn't fix the problem. It's like, okay.
No, there's always been a can kick in each era of college athletics to delay making a decision. There's a story a lot of people don't know about. It happened in the early 2000s. Miles Brand was the president of the NCAA, and he had a staffer that went to him and said, hey, maybe we should start paying the athletes to be in the video game. This is before O'Bannon started, which was about him being in the video game, right? So this was in the early 2000s, and the staffer goes to Miles Brand and comes up with this proposal to pay the athletes for being in the EA Sports basketball, baseball, and football games, because back then they made them for all 3 college sports. And essentially, he was going to bring in the Student Athlete Advisory Committee as a way to like include the athletes in the conversation. And the reason wasn't because it was the right thing to do. The reason was the schools would make more on their licensing fees on the video games if the players' names and numbers and likenesses were in it, because it just would sell more, because more people would like the game. So they started working on this, and they got some real progress. They're getting in front of the D1 council and presidents, and then Miles Brand passed away. Suddenly, Mark Emmert ends up taking his spot, and they shove it away. Now, just imagine if that got through. If that got through, Ed O'Bannon's lawsuit, which ended up getting decided in 2016, but started around 2010, wouldn't have been as relevant, because the improper use of his name, image, and likeness would have been figured out by them being proactive and figuring out how to compensate college athletes for their name, image, and likeness. This whole story is in the book, The Price, which is written by Armin Katanian and John Talty. It came out last year. Everybody should read it. It is the best book about NIL. It's a 3-year story from 21 to 24, investigative story about NIL. It's a great book. But that story is told in there, and it's a great example of the lack of proactivity from leadership, and this whole thing of like, let's just get the house settlement done. and then the house settlement gets done and nothing's fixed and people are already circumventing the cap. And now it's, let's get the SCORE Act done. And then the SCORE Act won't get done. And then it'll be something else instead of, let's look at how the law works and let's figure out a way to do this legally so that we have a model that can grow.
Jim, you broke this down like in such a perfect science, for the people who don't understand all this stuff and the legislative and everything. So I appreciate you for that. Where can everybody follow what you're doing? What's next for athletes.org? I know you've been out here fighting for the athletes, which is why we wanted to do the show today. So people are very familiar, put the face with the name, but tell us what's coming up, on the horizon for you at athletes.org.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're just continuing to sign up athletes, educate them on things like the SCORE Act, things like the house settlement, help them with resources with their current college athletics experience, and just build the PA to be in position to help the athletes collectively bargain when the industry's finally ready. And follow athletes.org at athletes.org on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. And you follow me at Jim Cavale. But we're fighting the good fight on a daily basis, and we've made a lot of progress. We've been around for 2 years. I used to build tech company. I built a tech company in the college athletic space for about a decade, Influencer, and then Teamworks. And after I sold, I started this because I really believe it's the solution to create a bridge between the schools and the athletes, so that we can have a sustainable future in college athletics.
It's super admirable what athletes.org and all their investors have done. I mean, it's literally they're taking up a fight and pouring resources into something in the essence of wanting to protect and believing there's a better other side to it. It's very admirable. There's a lot of good resources, to all folks who see this, like go check them out, speak about it, be knowledgeable, and just really tap in.
Yeah, no, it is very admirable, and we can't let you go without ending. We always end on Chuck's BS of the week, and then we have a new segment called Quick Picks that our producer Felipe has now thrown into the show. So Jim, we got to get a couple quick picks from you.
Okay.
And speaking of being admirable, my BS of the week is I think it would be admirable if Ryan Poles stepped down from the GM role for the Bears right now, because we are as bad as a football team as I've ever seen since maybe the Little Giants early on in the movie. And so that's my BS of the week.
Chuck, I feel like this is like an episode from a year ago. Don't isn't this always?
I'm in a time warp. This feels like 23 and 24 and 25, like, 36 years on this earth. And we just, I just want one Super Bowl in my lifetime. That's all I want. And it doesn't look good. I don't know where things are going with Caleb. Everything's all over the place. And I'm blaming the GM. So my BS of the week is Ryan Poles needs to go do the honorable thing, step down. I like the way Jim's running things. Maybe we bring in Jim mid-season and we can make a late season playoff push. So that's Chuck's BS of the week.
I love it. What are our picks,
great.
Chuck?
All right. Well, we got 3 games on this week's slate. We got first game, and you guys just, give us a couple tidbits. Tell us who you select and how we expect the game to play out. So the first game, we got Texas Tech taking on Utah in the early morning game this weekend. Who we got there?
I'll go first. I'm going Utah. Anything early morning, and they're just tough as nails. Anytime I pick, I picked against Utah. I picked against Utah when they had that USC Pac-12 championship game, and they were up. USC was up huge, lost. So I'm picking Utah.
I'm going to pick Utah as well. And, I thought Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports did a great job talking about these OC QB packages that are moving around in the portal. And Utah is an example of that. Their quarterback play has been great. And, like JG said, they're at home, West Coast game, early morning. I like them.
I like it too. I'm going Utah. The quarterback, I don't think he's even thrown an interception all season. So I think they keep that rolling, and I think they win by at least two touchdowns.
Wow.
Game, yeah. I'm calling that early. I should run the prize picks. I'm stuck in Vegas though, so I can't put my prize picks in. But that's a whole nother story.
You got other options if you're in Vegas, Chuck. You got other options.
Yeah, I got other options. Game 2, we got Auburn going down to play the Sooners at Oklahoma.
I'll let Jim go
ahead,
first.
JG. Okay, I'll go.
Jim, you start. You start.
War Eagle. I live in Alabama. I live in Birmingham, and I never chose a team down here, but I feel like Arnold's gonna gonna show them what they lost out on. And I know it's a crazy pick because everybody's so high on the quarterback for Oklahoma. I mentioned him earlier, Mateer, but I think Auburn's gonna go in there and shock them.
Okay.
Man, that is
He doesn't like
That's
that.
bold.
That's okay.
No,
That's bold.
it's not that I don't like it. I do like Arnold with the edge, but I actually think Oklahoma is good is my problem. I like the energy coming from Auburn. I got to go Oklahoma, though, just because I actually think they're a good team. Watch this be an awful pick. But in my head, I think they're pretty, again, like you said, Jim, like the package of like the consistency of an OC and a quarterback is huge. Yeah, I'm going to go with Oklahoma. Chuck, what do you got?
We're a draw, so I'm gonna lean JG's side on this. I think this kid Mateer, he's special. He's special. He just seems like a winner, and I think the whole team rallied around him, especially in that Michigan game. You know, like I can just tell like he's got a buzz down in Oklahoma. But actually, I think Auburn's gonna keep this thing closer. But I say OU by a late touchdown. By a late touchdown. And our third and final game, we're sticking in the Midwest where I'm from. Illinois is taking on Indiana in Indiana. Two stud quarterbacks going at it right there.
They used to call they used to call this the irrelevant bowl, right? Illinois versus Indiana. It was the irrelevant bowl, and now
growing up, this was not a sexy game.
This says 9 versus 19.
Yeah, this is crazy.
I guess Ryan Pohl's been nowhere near these teams. These teams are doing well, you know, right?
Yeah, no, keep him far away. But Lima's doing this thing at Illinois. That's where I'm from, so I'm taking Illinois. But I really love what Cignetti and Indiana are doing, and their quarterback he's a stud. So, but I'm going Illinois just because I'm biased. But I think this is a high scoring game. I think the over under should be like almost near the 60s. I think it's going to be an all time classic.
All right. I'm going Illinois too, but I want to understand, Chuck, what do people, are people becoming all of a sudden Illinois fans? Like if people just jump in, like everyone's getting like, it's hard to like get serious about them, but are people getting serious?
Yeah, so like in 07, I think 07, 08, we beat Ohio State when they were like the number one team in the country, and everybody in the city was rooting for Illinois. But the following week, if Northwestern wins, we root for them too. So back home, we don't really feel married to a certain college because Illinois is technically downstate in Champaign, Northwestern's, in Evanston and like the north suburbs. But yeah, if they're winning, we're bandwagon all day.
All right.
All day.
So the good news is you get two teams for one living there, but the bad news is they've both been really bad for a long time. I got it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I guess
Illinois too.
Basically, if the settlement goes all to shit, I guess basically you combine Northwestern and Illinois and they become one school.
Yeah,
guys,
the
first merger ever. We've combined two athletic departments.
They should do that with. There's a couple other schools we could do that with, but I like Illinois too.
Wow,
beautiful. All right, man. Well, if you like it, I love it. Jim, man, kudos to you, man. You're doing great work. We really appreciate you coming on. I know how busy you are, and you're always welcome on the show. Friend of the family. So that's Jim Cavale.
Thanks for having me.
Athletes.org founder. Hanging and banging and slanging and doing whatever me and JG do with the network. We appreciate you guys coming on the special episode, and we'll catch you guys next week. Much love to our producer, Felipe, who's doing great work for us. So you guys be safe, and see you next week.